Hi, Leo. This is your April bonus reading from Eternal Mindfulness. And let me ask you something big, right here, right now. What if everything you've been waiting for is finally waiting for you? You didn't just stumble upon this video. You were guided here. Something in the rhythm of the universe, a whisper from your higher self, or maybe a long-held dream burning in your chest, brought you to this very moment. So take a breath, feel that fire deep within your solar plexus, and know, this is not coincidence. This is cosmic alignment. As the sun, the ruler of Leo, rises higher in the April sky, so does your energy. This month holds a powerful shift. And Leo, if you've been dimming your light for the sake of others, it's time to remember who you are. You are the divine flame. You don't chase the spotlight, you are the spotlight. And this time, the world is finally ready to see it. April invites you to walk boldly toward your destiny. What's coming isn't just a lucky moment. It's a lucky break. One born not from chance, but from every step you've taken, every lesson you've endured, and every ounce of heart you've poured into becoming more of who you truly are. This is a cosmic reward for your resilience. And this video? It's the message you didn't know you needed, until now. So I invite you, right now, to tune in completely. Feel the energy flowing through this reading. This isn't just entertainment. It's a sacred mirror. A place where your intuition meets universal wisdom. As we dive into astrology, tarot, numerology, and the energetic codes shaping your month, I want you to receive these insights not as predictions, but as invitations. Opportunities to claim your power, to align your vibration, and to rewrite your story on your terms. And before we continue, let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude. Thank you for being here, for your presence, your spirit, your energy. Every like, every comment, every share, and every subscriber expands our Eternal Mindfulness family. Your support fuels this channel and helps bring these transformational messages to more souls like you. Truly, from my heart to yours, thank you. And believe me, Radiant Leo, you'll want to stay until the very last second of this video. Because what the universe is preparing to reveal to you is nothing short of magnificent. Now tell me, my fierce-hearted lions, what have you done to call this moment into your life? What energy have you been putting out that has brought you to this threshold of breakthrough? Drop your answer in the comments below. Let's anchor this energy together, and dive into the magic that awaits you. Have you ever noticed how certain numbers keep showing up in your life? On receipts, clocks, street signs, almost as if they're trying to whisper something only your soul can hear? When we pay attention to these repeating sequences, we begin to tap into a subtle rhythm, a language without words, guiding us gently back into alignment. For Leo this month, those whispers come through clearly in the sequences 1919, 0808, and 111. They're not just numbers. They're reflections of a larger pattern unfolding inside you. The presence of 1919 signals the closing of an inner chapter, one that may have quietly been unraveling beneath the surface. This isn't just about endings in the external world, but about the gentle shedding of identities that no longer reflect your truth. It speaks to the silent courage it takes to let go of the roles you've outgrown, the narratives that once kept you safe, but now only keep you small. There's something beautifully liberating in that, almost like watching old leaves fall so the tree can begin again. You're not losing who you are, you're making space to remember who you've always been beneath the noise. Then there's 0808, pulsing like a golden current through your energetic field. This is the energy of material alignment, yes, but more than that, it's the energy of being seen. To be recognized not just for your output, but for your essence. There's a quiet dignity in showing up for your life with integrity, and this number is a mirror reflecting that back to you. It invites you to lead not from control or perfection, but from presence. True leadership, your kind of leadership, isn't about dominating. It's about radiating. And that's what makes you magnetic now. The number 111 is like the breath before the spark, the sacred pause before something new begins to bloom. It carries the vibration of inspiration, creative fire, and the first flutter of a dream taking form. But here's the thing about 111, it doesn't ask you to do anything extravagant. It simply asks you to believe. Not blindly, but boldly. Because belief is the soil where visions take root, and April is the month where those seeds are kissed by light. If you've been wondering whether you're ready, consider this your answer. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. When these numbers converge under Leo's fiery essence, a powerful alchemy takes place. This is what I call the Phoenix effect, not as a dramatic metaphor, but as a real shift in energy. It's what happens when courage meets clarity, when the past releases its grip, and when your inner fire stops asking for permission. The phoenix doesn't rise because it's told to. It rises because that's simply what it does when the time is right. And Leo, this is your time. Even more, the numerology of April, rooted in the vibration of the number 4, grounds this transformation with structure and stability. It reminds you that real magic lives in consistent movement. You don't have to leap. You just have to walk forward, one intentional step at a time, with the knowledge that the ground beneath you is responding. This is where the power of cause and effect comes in. Every choice you make, no matter how small, ripples outward. What you tend to with sincerity begins to flourish. What you release with compassion dissolves quietly in its own time. There is no rush. Only rhythm. And that rhythm, Leo, is what connects you to something deeper than circumstances or predictions. It connects you to your own sovereignty. In that stillness between numbers and meanings lies your most important realization, that nothing outside of you defines your worthiness. It's already here. It always was. The invitation is simply to live in a way that reflects that truth, to remember that worthiness isn't something you earn, but something you return to. Like breath. Like fire. Like the sun. So if your heart feels restless, if your spirit feels like it's waiting for a sign, this is it. The universe has already voted in your favor. Now it's your turn. Say yes. Choose yourself. And take that next step toward the life that's waiting to meet you halfway. When the cards unfold before us, they don't speak in commands or ultimatums, they invite reflection. They don't tell us what to do, but rather, they hold up a mirror to the parts of us that are ready to rise. And for you, Leo, what's being reflected right now is nothing less than the essence of who you are: light, courage, and purpose in motion. The appearance of the sun is more than symbolic, it's deeply personal. This is your signature card, your cosmic calling card. It reminds you that joy isn't a destination you chase, it's a truth you embody. And the moment you allow yourself to experience joy without justification, you begin to radiate something unmistakable. Not the joy that demands an audience, but the kind that arises from authenticity. From living in alignment with your nature, without the weight of needing to prove it. And right beside it stands the Six of Wands. This is the part of your journey where you begin to see the results of your inner work, not just through praise or recognition, but through your own growing sense of trust in yourself. There's a quiet kind of victory here, one that doesn't always need to be shouted. It's the realization that the mountain you've been climbing wasn't just external, it was always inside you. And now, having reached a new height, you're invited not just to look back with pride, but to look forward with clarity. With direction. What gives this victory its staying power is strength. Not brute force. Not dominance. But the kind of strength that holds steady in the face of doubt and listens deeply when the ego wants to react. This card reminds you of your greatest superpower, compassion. Especially compassion directed inward. There's a kind of mastery that comes from recognizing your feelings without letting them dictate your actions, from meeting your inner critic with calm and your fears with curiosity. This is where the lion's heart truly roars, not in battle, but in the stillness between. Ace of Wands sparks something entirely new. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It simply asks, what inspires you now? What stirs your blood and lights your imagination? That initial flicker of excitement is the first step toward transformation. It might not be fully formed, and that's okay. The seed doesn't need to understand the forest it will become, it only needs to break through the surface. This card invites you to take action, not for approval, but for aliveness. Not to impress, but to express. The world needs your creative fire, not your perfection. And then comes the star, gentle, luminous, and unwavering. This card shows up after a storm, after a loss, after a long stretch of doubt. It brings the message that healing doesn't erase the past, it helps you carry it differently. It softens the edges of what once felt sharp, and reveals the deeper meaning behind the detours. There's an energy here that says, you're allowed to begin again. You're allowed to hope again. And more than that, you're allowed to feel peace even before everything is perfect. Sometimes, that peace is the very thing that ushers in the perfection. Taken together, these cards don't just forecast events. They point you inward, to the stage you've built inside yourself, the one that's always been waiting for your full presence. They ask, what if you didn't hold back anymore? What if you stopped shrinking to fit into places that were never designed for your expansion? You don't need permission to shine. That's the illusion. You are the sun. And the sun doesn't ask, it simply rises. In moments of doubt, remember this. The most powerful kind of freedom comes from releasing the need to be anything other than exactly who you are. Like the river that carves through stone not with force, but with persistence, your light is meant to move through the world with quiet certainty. You are already enough. And this moment, this reading, this energy, that's your reflection. Let it remind you of the truth that has always lived beneath the surface, that you were born to be seen, not for who you try to be, but for who you already are. There's something quietly profound that happens when you begin to question the weight you've been carrying, not just the tasks and responsibilities, but the silent expectations that were never truly yours to begin with. For Leo, who so often feels called to be strong, radiant, and unwavering for others, there can be an unspoken pressure to perform even when your inner world is aching for pause. It's not weakness to acknowledge your limits, it's wisdom. And even more than that, it's a necessary act of self-preservation. The truth is, the version of you the world applauds may not always be the version that needs the most love. Sometimes, it's the tender, weary parts of you, the ones hidden behind the confident smile, that are quietly begging to be seen. To allow yourself to rest, to soften, to simply exist without performing is a radical act in a world that often only values what shines outwardly. But just like the sun, you don't need to prove your light for it to be real. It simply is. One of the most powerful practices you can engage in right now is to reconnect with the version of yourself who knew how to feel without filtering, your inner child. Write to them. Ask them what they longed for, what they feared, what they dreamed about when no one else was watching. This isn't about digging up pain, it's about listening. About remembering. And when you do, something opens. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that you may have tucked away in order to grow up or be strong. But the truth is, wholeness includes the softness. Courage includes vulnerability. In your daily life, this reconnection doesn't require hours of meditation or grand declarations. It begins with how you speak to yourself when you first wake up. It's in the gentle recognition of your effort, the small act of pausing to say, "I see you. You're doing your best." Too often we wait for validation from the outside, forgetting that the most lasting nourishment comes from within. Imagine beginning each day not with a to-do list, but with a breath and a blessing, offering kindness to your own heart before anyone else has the chance to. Rest, too, is not a luxury. It is essential. Even the lion, majestic as it is, spends more time in stillness than in the hunt. You are no less valuable when you are still. In fact, it is in stillness that your true energy recalibrates. That your thoughts soften, your nervous system breathes, and your spirit returns to center. Just as the body needs sleep to repair, the heart needs quiet to heal. And when it comes to protecting that inner peace, learning to say no is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of reverence. Every no you speak is a yes to your own alignment. It's how you protect your flame from being dimmed by obligations that drain you. Boundaries, when set with clarity and care, are not walls, they're gardens. They create the space for you to bloom on your own terms. In many ancient teachings, there is a gentle reminder that the greatest strength is not force, but steadiness. That liberation does not come from pushing harder, but from releasing what you no longer need to hold. It is in the act of letting go, of expectations, of roles, of constant doing, that you begin to feel the lightness of your own being. Like leaves falling from a tree in autumn, healing is not dramatic. It's natural, quiet, sacred. So as you continue forward, remember this: your healing is not something you must earn. It is your right. And in choosing to honor your needs, to soothe your heart, to offer yourself compassion rather than critique, you don't diminish your power. You deepen it. Because when a Leo heals, they don't just recover, they rise. And when you rise, you remind the world that even the brightest stars need the dark sky to shine. Sometimes, love doesn't enter with fireworks or grand declarations. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, like the moment you stop trying to be what you think someone will love, and start allowing yourself to simply be. For Leo, whose heart was born to love boldly and deeply, relationships often feel like a mirror reflecting back parts of the self we've forgotten or pushed aside. But before love can truly take root, before it can nourish and uplift, it must first meet a home that is willing to receive it with openness, not with expectation. If you're single right now, you might feel that tug, that gentle ache, for connection. It's real, and it's valid. But the most important connection you can cultivate is the one you have with your own presence. Not the polished, curated version of you, but the raw, honest, morning light you. The you that craves safety more than spark, tenderness more than performance. You're not waiting to be chosen, you're rediscovering what it feels like to choose yourself, every single day. Because when you do, the energy you emit begins to change. And suddenly, love doesn't feel like searching. It feels like resonance. Stand in front of a mirror, not to fix, but to see. Look yourself in the eyes and say the words your heart has waited to hear. I love you. And I allow myself to be loved the right way. Not love that conditions itself on your achievements, your appearance, or how easy you are to handle. But love that honors your boundaries, your fire, your humanity. This isn't about pretending you're whole so someone else will believe it. It's about remembering that your wholeness was never in question to begin with. For those in relationships, this is a time to soften control and reawaken intimacy through presence. Holding on tightly doesn't prevent things from slipping away. It often hastens the distance. True connection lives in the space where each person is allowed to breathe, to evolve, to be. Leo, with your generous heart, it's easy to want to give all of yourself. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for them and for you, is to pull back just enough to let the flame breathe. That space, when held with care, becomes sacred. It invites curiosity, not fear. Growth, not resistance. Relationships aren't designed to complete us, they're designed to complement us. And the best ones don't rescue us from ourselves. They challenge us, reflect us, hold us accountable, and remind us that we are lovable even when we're learning. Even when we're unraveling. Even when we don't know the next step. When love becomes a collaboration between two evolving people, rather than a contract between roles, everything shifts. There is more laughter. More softness. More truth. In one quiet teaching, there is a phrase that goes something like this: no one can give you what you have not yet given yourself. And that's not a punishment, it's an invitation. An opening to become your own source of warmth, so that when love does arrive, whether through someone new or someone beside you now, it doesn't come to fix or to fill. It comes to celebrate. So wherever you find yourself on the spectrum of love, know this: the relationship you're building with yourself sets the tone for everything else. It teaches the world how to love you, how to show up for you, how to hold space for you. Be gentle with yourself in that process. Let your self-love be less about mantras and more about small, consistent actions, resting when you're tired, speaking when you need, and leaving when something no longer honors your worth. That's where true love begins. And when it begins there, everything else that follows is real. It's often the smallest rituals that bring us back to ourselves, the quiet gestures that might seem simple on the outside, yet ripple deeply through our inner world. After exploring love, healing, and the ways we meet life with openness, the next step is embodiment. It's about anchoring everything you've been awakening into something you can feel, touch, and carry with you into the everyday. This is where energy becomes practice, and practice becomes transformation. Color, often underestimated, is one of the most accessible gateways to align with your own frequency. For Leo, the golden hue that reflects your soul's essence takes center stage this month. Gold is not just a color, it's a vibration. It symbolizes dignity without ego, confidence without domination, and a warm, magnetic light that doesn't need to shout to be noticed. Wearing golden tones, keeping them in your space, or simply meditating on their warmth can remind you of the sovereignty that lives within. It's less about standing above and more about standing in, a quiet affirmation that your worth is innate, not earned. And then there's the crown. Not as a symbol of hierarchy, but as a reminder that leadership begins within. The crown represents presence. Not the need to control others, but the choice to take responsibility for your inner world. To act with awareness. To lead with integrity. Place a crown in your space. This could be an object, a drawing, or even a vision you return to in meditation, and let it reflect back to you a deeper truth. That recognition begins the moment you recognize yourself. These outer symbols are not meant to be worshipped. They are simply reflections, much like a calm lake mirrors the sky. Their power lies in how they help you remember. And memory, in this sense, is less about the past and more about returning to your original clarity. When you remember who you are, the noise falls away, and action becomes intentional. One simple but potent practice is placing your hand over your heart each morning and saying, "I am worthy of success, of love, and of living in my light." Not as an empty mantra, but as a statement of return. You may feel resistance. That's okay. The purpose is not to convince yourself, but to gently plant the seed, water it with sincerity, and let your daily choices reinforce that truth. This kind of inner affirmation doesn't require belief, it only requires consistency. Just as the body responds to warmth, the heart responds to honesty. Lighting a candle, especially in a vibrant orange tone, is another way to engage your creative force. Orange stimulates not only the senses but the inner space where ideas are born. It's connected to your creative center, not just art, but how you create your life moment to moment. When you light that flame, you're not summoning anything external. You're saying, "I'm here. I'm ready. I choose to participate in my own becoming." None of these practices are about achieving perfection. They are about cultivating presence. About becoming more aware of how you carry yourself through the world. In the same way a tree doesn't force its fruit to ripen, your growth happens when the conditions are right. And you create those conditions through care, through clarity, through aligned action. So when you reach for your gold, when you touch your chest with intention, when you light that candle, you're doing more than believing in something. You're creating resonance. You're building a relationship with the version of you that already exists beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond the stories that say you're not enough. And from that space, everything begins to shift, quietly, gently, powerfully. And now, as we gently bring this reading to a close, I invite you to take one final breath with me, not to end something, but to begin again, more rooted, more aware, and more connected to the truth of who you are. You see, Leo, this month isn't about waiting for permission. It's about recognizing that the crown you've been seeking outside of yourself has always belonged to you. You're not here to fit into a space that was never built for your light. You're here to shape the space around you with that light, unapologetically. The messages you've received today, through numbers, symbols, cards, and intention, aren't distant ideas or vague possibilities. They are living energies that already exist within your field, waiting for you to say yes. And maybe that yes doesn't need to be loud. Maybe it starts as a whisper. A moment of courage. A single step. Because real transformation rarely comes from giant leaps. It grows from consistent, aligned action. From deciding, day after day, that you're worthy of showing up for yourself, not because everything is perfect, but because you are worth showing up for. What would happen if you chose to trust that your voice matters, even when it shakes? What would shift if you no longer waited to be chosen, but decided to choose yourself, lovingly, boldly, without condition? What might open in your life if you let go of the need to prove and simply allowed yourself to be? These aren't just poetic questions. They're portals. Invitations. And the answers are already alive in your own heart, if you're willing to listen. You don't need to know the entire path. You only need to take the next aligned step. Maybe that means speaking your truth where you once stayed silent. Maybe it's starting that project you've been dreaming about for months. Maybe it's resting, truly resting, without guilt. Whatever it is, do it with presence. Do it with intention. And know that every time you honor your authentic self, you realign with the greater flow of life. And that's where the real magic happens. This month, let your mantra be, I am not here to be small. I am here to burn bright, with love, with purpose, with joy. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in process. And the process is sacred. If today's message stirred something in you, if even just one word landed in the center of your chest, take a moment to anchor that energy. Comment below with or type the words, I give myself permission to shine. Not just for algorithm's sake, but because there's power in declaring your truth, even digitally. That ripple can reach someone else who needs it. And maybe that someone is you. Before you go, I want to say thank you, truly. Thank you for giving yourself this time. Thank you for showing up with openness, curiosity, and heart. Every like, every comment, every subscription you gift to this channel fuels this sacred space we're building together at Eternal Mindfulness. And I don't take that lightly. Your presence here is part of something much bigger than a video. It's part of a movement, a quiet, powerful revolution of self-remembrance. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe if you feel called to, and share this with someone whose light might be flickering, waiting to be reignited. You never know how far a simple gesture of connection can travel. And remember, Leo, you don't need to wait for the right moment. You are the moment. Every time you choose yourself, every time you rise with compassion and clarity, you become the fire that lights the way, not just for yourself, but for others too. I'll see you in the next reading. Until then, stay radiant, stay grounded, and never forget, your light changes everything.